if I can. Okay, I'm going to start recording this so I could throw you the video as well. All right. I'm going to give you the really flash version of what's in the video, the other video that I had. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're going to have, here's the idea. You're going to have a multi, let me go to the notes page. Okay. You're going to have a multi-page document, a many page actually, right? So you have to sufficiently, the metric is your executive team has to understand it, see the detail in there, and they're measuring, is there enough information here to take it to the other 12 facilities,
Hmm.
Usually you would have a review period and it would be hardened up, like editing. People would be like, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? And you'd say something, they go, put that in, but also add this because these are questions that I would have. That's typically how you build things in a committee. It's like you take the first shot and everybody's like, okay, that was good, but let's round it out. So it's kind of hard to do one of these completely on your own. But you'll end up with many pages. I already showed, or I was describing, I gave you a list, this kind of curved list of pages here. Your body, if I give you an example here, I'll write some numbers here. I'm going to work backwards. Your appendices are going to have your Excel file completely built in there, and your end of week checklist and your start of week checklist. And so this could be as many as probably 5 or 6 pages, right? So pages build fast. The count shouldn't throw anybody off because some of it is picture taken. You're going to take screenshots, and then you're going to build a list in Word of things not to forget about before you leave for the weekend. So every time you hit end turn in the simulation, what that was really saying was, okay, everybody go home for the weekend, and that's it. I mean, all your decisions are made, and you walk in on Monday and you use your start of week checklist to see if all those things that happened when you left, if they happen correctly. Did materials show up? Where you are in production? Did you hire people? How much stuff got processed on inbound? How much got shipped? That kind of thing. So you're going to have about 6 pages of appendix. Your conclusion, usually that could be like less than 1 page, not to exceed 1 page, but not too short either. I'm thinking 3/4 of a page on that, right? Probably
Okay.
7 or 8 sentences, right? But your body, I want to save that. Your executive summary is only 1 page. Table of contents, 1 page. Cover page, 1 page, right? So if we don't count the body, you're already up to 10 pages without having written anything already. So that's what I try to help students understand. This stuff builds up fast, but you have to, for the business sense, you have to have a complete document, right? So what we're
Hmm.
looking at right now on this other page up here is just the body. Okay. So we already said this is going to be about 10 pages. It can easily be 10 pages without a body yet in there. Okay.
Yeah.
So the body, a lot of your understanding comes from running through the simulation. Okay. How would you organize the body? What headings would you use in there? Right. So think about I went into a little bit of a digression there about use what you have, build everything from where you are. Don't think that you have to invent some kind of structure for the body. We already have it. If you go to the Excel file, we have 2 big areas of analysis that when we look at the plant floor, the analysis we looked at, we're looking at the entire operations through 2 sets of goggles. Okay. One is money, the profitability. And we did a lot of work in Excel on profitability. All right. So you need to go in and retrieve the 5 contracts that you have already and push the rest of the numbers in here. Okay. And run it out so you can figure out, let me drag this over. All right. So you can figure out the 3 areas of expenses, which were material, right? Oh, I actually can draw it here. That's pretty cool. Right? So there's material there. Then we did the manufacturing costs, which was here. Okay. And then if you notice, the headings turn into unit weight. This had to do with shipping because it depended on weight. And so we did the third subtotal was the expense of shipping it. So we had those 1, 2, and 3, right? Right. So this is 3, 2. Okay. So one of the things, especially about business, it's really for any degree whatsoever, but you have to organize. I mean, most of winning is organizing stuff when you come in new on a project is organize it. So we've organized it. We had 1, 2, 3 major expenses. We added them all up. Actually, I lied here. Hold on a second. Oh, to be accurate on this, let me just delete this. Right, this, and I'm going to move that over. Here's shipping costs were actually here. If you remember how we did this, excuse me. So that was shipping costs. Okay. And then we added up the subtotal of all the shipping costs. That was step 4, right? And then we did the opposite of costs. We said what's left over, right? So that's 5. I mean, this is how you do any business. It was you wake up one day and some distant relative in your family wills you a business, and you have no idea what's going on. This is exactly what you do. You start figuring it out. All right. So within just profitability, we could talk about different areas on the plant floor. Each of these has behavior that affects cost that starts taking away from your contract value, right? So each area here, there's some aspect that it relates to cost. Some of them are more clear, more direct, and that would be like material and people to um, sort the material. And then you had people that made the stuff on the production floor and the production machines. And then you had shipping and the people that did the shipping. And then there were some things up here you want to talk about as far as contracts, bidding, and market research, right? And then there was things about HR. And so you could talk about each one of these 5 things, each of the 5 areas. Hold on a second here, right? In the terms of profitability, right? So there could be in your body a really big section A that is profitability, and you talk about these are the plant floor areas. There's 5 areas, all right? And then we talked about schedule. So then you could have a whole other major section, and this is a clock. So then you have schedule, right? And the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What impact does each of those areas have on schedule? And that's your framework for your body, right? Excuse me. How does that look?
Pretty good.
So if technically, on average, for profitability, right, there might be a visual, there might be a screenshot, let's call it screen grab, SG. There might be a screen grab for each one of these 5 areas on the plant floor in terms of dollars, right? And then you're going to have narrative. Narrative is going to use the screen grab, the visual or the figure. So each of these should be. So if you think about it, every part of the plant floor could almost have its own page, depending on how big the screen grab is affecting that. Now, not only are you going to use that from the plant floor, okay, to just remind you how fast the pages build up here. So you can have screen grabs of the plant floor, right? But you would also have screen grabs of your Excel section of Excel that shows shows something. If you're talking about the shipping area, I don't know however you number these areas is fine. Just be consistent from one section to the next. And if you have an image of the floor of what a common user was going to experience there, and you write about it, and you show in Excel, so you take a screen grab of Excel of that part of the Excel, that relates to the area you're talking about, 2 pictures and some words is a page, right? So that's a page
Mm-hmm.
apiece, right? And you're going to end up with half the page is writing at double space. Okay.
Yep.
Now some of these might run a little longer, some of them might run a little bit shorter, but on average you've got about 1 page. And if you start really thinking about it, that's not a lot of writing. It's the thought is more important of organizing how you're doing it,
Reading the
so
chat.
that someone reading it understands it. Okay. So then you can go through all. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just a question. So because I can't get back into the one we passed, can I go into that work in progress and take just regular screenshots of say the
Yeah.
shipping cost, and then talk
Yeah.
about that,
That's the
or take
point.
it?
Very good
Okay.
question. That's the point of why that's back open again. And as you mentioned, there's no record of your performance as you go through there. You'll understand how the course is actually set up. Is you're supposed to be using the Excel as you go through and achieve goal. And if you
Mm-hmm.
look at it net, it's about even. But I understand people's impatience with just trying to figure out how to get through the mod 4 on average. Take um, you know, if you take a class of 20 to 30 that I have for this, you know, if you think about what happens when you try to teach all of them at once, you have 20% of the class isn't getting it, right? 20% of the class does all the work for the entire semester the first week, the overachievers. You have the middle of everybody that's kind of following and doing everything on time. And then there's 20% of the people of which some of them are just having a struggle and some of them don't care, you know. But, this is the other side of teaching you're hearing about here. But, the ones that are working hard that you have to work with, what ends up happening is I end up having to tell people that are having a hard time slow down to speed up. And the real correct way especially for those students that had a lot of trouble, which you didn't, is they should be methodically moving forward with their Excel as they're running Mod 4. So I'm coming back to what you said about having to go back in there. I kind of had to reintroduce this ability to go back in after I'd run this a few times. And I know what it is about students. You have 4 other classes, you got pressures, you're just trying to get through and understand it. And then you get a lot of relief. You have more confidence to go back and then rebuild your Excel. So technically, you should have, of course, the way I've been able to relay the information to you is a little out of sequence right now, too. But it's really good that you got done. You have the confidence that you've done it. And now you just have to go back and do the Excel. And the Excel is hardest for people that do a lot of gaming and they get through this really fast. And they're using like their sixth sense on strategy. They pick up on what the rule base is in here pretty fast, and they win. And it kills them. It absolutely kills them to go back and write the report and go through Excel on 12 contracts and explain it. But at companies that I work, where I work, the rule that I lay down is it's wonderful if someone can race through to success, but there's two problems with that. First of all, that means only one person knows what's going on, and then even do they really know, you know? And it's unsustainable. You can't sustain success that way. You have to be able to go back and map it out sufficiently. You don't have to over-explain it, but sufficiently to take it to the next 12 factories, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I've built this premise over time. I hope, a lot of times the undergrad traditional students like yourself, you have some good work experience, but without work experience, you don't have much to go on. All of this gets really boring, but I think you understand now that you're working at the role that you have at the golf course and everything. When you have responsibility and you're going to have a review at the end of your performance, then you do find time to do things like the Excel. So that was a long-winded explanation, but it's industry related. I wanted to share with you that really what you would be doing is doing this all along, not going back now. But I accommodate that in my course.
Yeah.
That's the way people do it. Yeah. All right. So if you look at it, you have on average about 10 more pages here, right? Now, if I said that to people, they'd fall out of their chairs as sophomores, right? But if I
Yeah.
go through it this way and you understand there's boilerplate that's required, you know, you're going to end up with 10 plus 10, it's going to be a 20-page report. Now, if I tell people, yeah, it's going to be 20 pages, they're thinking like single space, 20 pages the whole way. But what I'm trying to help people with is use screenshots that are relevant and meaningful, you know? So relevant and, useful. Let's even call it useful, all right? Screenshots, screen grabs, you know? So talk to them, each one of them should have, you probably give each one a figure number in there with a title. That could be a little bit time consuming, but if you're ordered, um, that's the whole point here. I mean, you're getting a little bit of the MBA edge on this too, because my MBA students, I tell them, you've been through some other degree before. Here you are, and the big thing about business is your attack. There's the MBA attack, all right? Okay, and the thing of it is that you've seen enough problems now that you shouldn't be worried about them. And what you do is you try to try to find a structure in there. What are the parts? A, B, C. How do they relate? Bing, bang, boom, really fast, turn it into a list like we did, explain them, on to the next job. That's how you make the big bucks. All right, all right. Don't languish in a problem. If it seems like it's getting confusing, pull yourself back up and provide yourself another layer. Okay, provide yourself another layer of information, like a higher level. What's going on here? Okay, how is that? Is that okay? How, question wise?
Yeah. No, we're good.
Okay. It's always easy when you see the answer, though. That's the issue. Is disambiguating ambiguous information or foggy situations is what the MBA. That's what I'm talking about as far as the MBA way. The MBA attack is don't let fuzziness get in the way. You might maybe in a problem given the amount of time, you might only figure out 30% of what's going on in there. But if you're given 1 week or 10 weeks, whatever it is, you can only do what you can do. It's one of my rules in life. And if that's where it takes you, that's natural. You might have to ask for more time, for a project or something, and just show substantiate that you had put good effort in it, you had people working on it, and everything else. So in the MBA attack thing is you might understand 30% and have to bring in an expert. Maybe there's things that you've got to bring in a consultant for. Okay, the world runs on expert consultants. All right, all right. So that's just about business. I'm just trying to share with you on that. How are we doing? All right.
Yep. Good.
All right.
Following along.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk about the schedule. Okay, so for every one of these contracts, the idea there, of course, this is going to be in the wrong place. So when you come into Mod 5, you only have one contract, and it tells us what? It tells us that we are given 8 weeks. We have to get that done in 8 weeks, right? So that's what we're talking about for the schedule half of the Excel. Okay, so there's the schedule half of Excel up there. Okay? We're looking at the schedule part. All right. So what are the three big? Well, what you could say is what are the big components we need to track if we have a contract come up for 300 pairs of socks and we have 8 weeks? We've got to be able to figure out, can we get things done? Can we get this done in 8 weeks? All right. So what we'll do is we'll analyze it as though there's no other projects holding it up. There's no other contracts holding it up in the pipeline. All right. So there's three areas. We're going to look at how long does it take to get raw materials in, all right? And from your experience, you probably would agree that about around 2 weeks, so this is in weeks, it takes about 2 weeks on average to get things in, okay? You might go with three, you might go with one, it's more, whatever, so what we're saying is we're using a nominal number here to model it, okay? So the situation we're looking at here for both profitability and schedule is you're given a deck of contracts to bid on, and you're only allowed to bid on two. So which two are you going to look at? In the profitability area, you might have a large contract, large number, like a high number of items to produce, but they have low cost per pair, right? So it's a large number times low cost. And so what ends up happening here is when you have a high number of things, it's going to take time, all right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why we have to watch out for the schedule. Then there's another contract that has, let's see. Well, the idea here, though, is if you have a high number and it's a low dollar number per unit, this unit cost, this goes into a contract that could be 15K, all right? Okay. And then you have some contract that has a small number, a low number, but it has a high unit, the things you're making are high dollar value, right? And when you multiply that, it comes out to 15K, all right? It's 5, not 8. So 15K. See what I'm saying? This is what the situation, I'm cutting right to the chase for you here. I usually don't give away all this information. I make you work for it, but this is what happens when you have a bidding process going on. So if these are within plus or minus 1,000 or 2,000 of each other, uh, which one would you take?
Um, I'd probably go a higher profit. So that'd be the 18K, right?
Well, that's a really good point. So what we don't
Smaller
know here
number.
is, this is the contract value. We're looking at the contract value is 15K, and then we're working in the blind. We don't know, and we're only allowed to bid on two. That's where the pressure. That's why we're building this Excel file. So if you really wanted to get through in like 23 weeks, if I set it up in class that everybody goes through, and the first time through you have to make it through on 30, but let's say second part of the semester, I tell everybody, yeah, but now you have to get through on, hold on a second, I wrote that in wrong. We're given 30 weeks, but then what I could do is say, nothing's changed except I can do this. I could change it to 26 weeks. Now everybody's going to be paying attention to the schedule a lot closer. All
Yeah.
things being equal, let's say these are equally profitable even. Suppose they are, you're going to take the smaller number. You're going to have to measure it, but the smaller number is probably going to take less time. It's a clock, all right? So you have to play a
Yeah.
lot of what ifs when you look at these things, all right? And that's why if we go a layer deeper to this and we actually look at the profitability, you might even say, what happens if this is case A and this is case B? What happens if A profit on A was bigger than B, right? By how much? The disadvantage is the large number is going to kill your production. You're not going to be able to get other contracts in there. It's going to take you a while, right? But
Yeah.
you're going to make more money on it, okay? And this is a beautiful, tough problem in production where this is a scale, okay? A versus B all the time, and you're going to have to figure out in business what you have to figure out is uh, a trade-off with how much more would you make on A to take that contract, being that it takes more time to produce that, right? So that's the wonderful hazy part of business that we get hired for is to figure out, just how much better would A have to be that we would finally take it because it took longer time. All right. How does that work out? Following that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, see, that's the fun we could actually have with this simulation, but you're actually getting a lot more. I think I don't really get into this level. This is what I'm trying to help students understand is why we're doing this calculation. This is why all this work is necessary. And kind of folding way back to something you mentioned a half an hour ago, going all the way back to that again, is that's what this is really used for pre-bidding. This file is to get to look at things before you bid on them. All right. Hopefully that makes sense a little bit better now. Is that this isn't, what do they call it? Post accepting, after accepting a contract, you bid on it, you accept a contract. You're only allowed to bid on two. That's, you have to make sure you're nailing these contracts and everything. Is you're going to run them before you bid on them. You're going to run them through here for profitability. Right. So that's the idea. It's really that you're supposed to be doing this as you're trying to pass Mod 4. But now you could just go back, try to get a good variation or sample of contracts to analyze in here, okay? Especially for, whoops, back here, hold on, especially for profitability, all right? Okay. So your first criteria is profitability, and your second one is going to be time. Okay? In the real world. Okay? So I'll send you this file, all right? This mess. All right? But it has the notes in there, and I'm also recording the session, so I'll post that as well. Okay, so let's look at the schedule part of this. I'll just go into this. We started by going into this. This is like, oops, Control Z. Try to do this a little cleaner. Ah, try it one more time. So like when we looked at three costs, three expenses to every document, to every contract that we had, we're looking at, that's one. The raw materials is one. As far as time, when we're looking at schedule, okay, what are the three things that take up a lot of time? You have raw materials takes up. We're going to model it as 2 weeks, okay, and then we have to run. Each contract goes through some kind of setup of 7 different processes, right? Cutting, sewing, blah, blah, blah. It's 7 of these processes right here, and we put the time in for each of these, okay? So this in your document would be a good time to go over, and you go to the production floor. And so what we're doing here is for each of the processes, I'm putting in what is the cycle time on there. So how you would do that is you'd come down here and you would look at the cutter. The cutter is the first process. It tells us here times per operation, 96 seconds. Right? So for each one of these, for every process that impacts or is used for a garment, you put in the time. Okay, we're just collecting primitive information. And T-shirts do not take dyeing, embroidering, or transfer, so they're grayed out. I just grade them out. Grab the cells, go to the home menu, and grab the bucket. I just grab the bucket full of gray, poured it in there. All right?
Yep.
So that is a visual. If you go to sport shorts down here, I don't remember offhand what processes it uses. I think it doesn't use pressing.
They don't use embroidery, pressing, or the hot air transfer.
Yeah, there's like 4. So it only uses three processes. So I would dump a whole bunch of gray in there. I just grab the cells and chuck some gray in there, and that helps me not make a mistake, And then I could just grab these times, just bring them down. Well, actually, we don't grab this one. Okay, so we're going to grab. We already had the information in there. This is why the second one goes faster, the third's faster, fourth. As you go along, you just start grabbing data and pulling it down. And then we have a column here. We're going to add up the total of the 7 processes. Well, for the t-shirts, we only used 4 of them. If you look at, okay, the way to do this, if you look at my formula in here, a better way to do this is generically, I'm going to use a shortcut called Alt equals, and that throws the sum formula into the cell, and I have to help it. I have to say, add these 7 columns up. It does its best at guessing if it wasn't right. So I help the sum formula out by grabbing the cells I want it to sum. Okay, and now I have a generic sum in here, and I can grab this, and I can drag this right down. Every time you put a formula in there, you're blazing now a reusable formula. Okay, so t-shirts, every t-shirt took 650 seconds, and every sport short took 406. So that's about 11 minutes, right? 60 seconds in a minute, so it's almost 660 seconds. That's like 11 minutes. And that gives us a practical understanding about it's going to take that long to get a t-shirt through the system. It's going to take 406 seconds for every sport short. Okay? So what we did is we figured out how many hours. Let's convert seconds into hours. And if you can see the formula up here, it's going to be the number of seconds divided by 3,600, which is 60 times 60 seconds and minutes. 60 by 60. And that will give us how many hours it takes in decimal like that, right? So every t-shirt there takes 0.18 hours. Okay, we converted it to hours. So now we can just drop all those all the way down, right? So it took us 18.18 hours. Gotta be careful about that. 0.18 hours to do a t-shirt, and 0.11 hours to do a tenth of an hour, which is like 6 minutes, right? Roughly. Is that right? Yeah. In the ballpark of 6 minutes for sport shorts. All right. So then we have to take how many hours and multiply by the number in the contract, right? So we're going to take, if you look at the net, all we're doing is converting numbers now, right? So if we have 0.18 per shirt, multiply it by the number of t-shirts. If we scooch to the left here, I know what the number is, but I need to grab this cell is J, the number, the quantity for the contract is J4. Excuse me. All right. So we have to grab J4 times 0.18 hours. And if you look at the formula, we have J4 right there multiplied by the number of hours, which is Alpha Quebec AQ4, right? So that's how many hours it's going to take. And then we're just going to divide by, what, 8. So you take the number of hours, divide by 8. You can see we divided by 8 here. And that gives us how many days. And finally, when we have the number of days, we divide by 5 days a week. And we get 8.125 weeks, right? With me so far?
Yep.
Okay. And then we should be quite disturbed by that number. I'm going to come back to that. Okay. All right. So this was the second of 3 times. Whoops. Hang on a second. This drawing pad is kind of funny. If you have a wire across it, which I just had, it doesn't. It picks up electrical energy and it doesn't know what to do with it. And the other thing is, if I put the pen down near it, the computer has to figure out whether I'm trying to use the pen or the keyboard, so it gets confused sometimes. So let me get this straight out. All right. All right. So we just figured the second. This is the second of 3, 2 of 3 time components, and shipping is going to be the third of 3, and shipping we're going to do an estimate or a nominal number, excuse me, and we're going to just assume that it takes 2 weeks. We're not going to expedite it or super expedite it, right?
Yeah.
And I just moved over in the Excel file because if you remember, we grabbed a screenshot of the shipping table and I dropped it into Excel. Okay, so you can really be moving around, adding a lot of things in here. Okay, so this was the table, and the standard shipping is 2 weeks, and you have an expedited term of 1 week, and you have a priority of 0 weeks, and each of those gets more expensive. But the concept here is we haven't bid on these yet. We're just trying to figure if we can get it done. Okay, all right. So if we add up those 3 times, I have a column over here to the right, like we did for the profitability. We want a total column. And what I did was I added those 3 times up. If you look up here, we have Alpha Victor, Alpha Tango, and Alpha Hotel, right? Victor Tango Hotel, right? So we added the shipping time is Alpha Victor, AV. Tango, Alpha Tango is the production floor. How long did it sit on the production floor? And the first one was Alpha Hotel here, and that was how long did it take us to get the raw materials, okay? So we know once we stack these end to end, all their contracts, some of these times flow, they expand and contract and whatever. But on average, we could go with these nominal numbers. And when we add up t-shirts, the time for t-shirts, we get this number of 12 and 1/8 weeks. So it's kind of like 12 weeks and half of a day kind of thing, okay? Why should we be worried about this? Does anything strike you about that? Think about
Well,
the actual
it's
contract.
over the contract weeks of 8, right?
Yes, okay? So as a business owner, that should bother us a whole lot. How did we come up with this number? We went to the student manual. And the student manual told us that when we're making a garment that we do it in batch mode and we do all the cutting first, then we do some sewing. Let's say we're just making socks, and we do sewing. We do packing because we don't press socks, right? Ah, hold on,
Yeah, I don't think we press socks.
right? Yeah. Boom. All right. So this is what the manual tells us, that we're doing it batch mode, and we have to do all of our cutting first, sewing second, and packing, and that's how we modeled the time here. Okay. So part of we're going to have such a thing called quiz one. Okay, so I'm just trying to think how to do this. All right. So for the next time we speak, and today is what, Wednesday. When's our next time that we can talk again?
Probably sometime next week. We could shoot for midweek.
Okay.
I'll definitely know as we get closer.
Yep. Hopefully you're going to have some time because you're kind of stacking up some work here to get through this. All right. So let me go to this. Okay.
So what you're gonna need for next week is the now revised Excel with the schedule times and the executive final report.
I want you to frame up. Really all I wanted you to do. I didn't need you to complete it. But I want to make sure before you go too far that you've got the gist. We covered a lot of this tonight. I'll send you these PDFs. So you want to remember this arch here. You want to remember when you watch that video, you want to pop these sections into that document. And
Okay.
excuse me. And for the executive summary, take your first pass. Hold on, let me go back a bit.
So write up a full executive summary of what? Yeah. So write
Well,
the
actually,
executive summary.
yeah. Well, I don't want you to go too far, all right? Because I just want, I don't want you to write it so well that if you needed rework on it, that you've wasted time. So what I would say is you want the format, okay? So you're going to have like 10 sections, so plus or minus. It's approximately like 10 sections, I think, or 7 sections or something like that, whatever the number is, all right? Something on the order of that, each with their own label and such, executive summary and all that. So I want to see that you understand the video, okay? And then specifically for the exec summary, right? Put down 8 bullet points that you would, let's say in the interim, you would call back to the office with, call back to your superiors, call back to the exec management. One of them might have been assigned to be your mentor or, provide oversight while you're out there, right? And you want to provide results, okay? So write 8 points in there of results. Da, 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 8, okay? Try to figure. In fact, I'll make it 5. Don't go too, like 8 is a lot of detail. By then, you've almost got the exact. But write down what your major accomplishments have been, and you're putting them at ease back home. He reports this back in and somehow, and you're just saying, yeah, and just go over the things that I've already talked about. I want you to decide what's important, but we talked about it tonight. It's nothing new. It's what were the important things? Remember this section here. Let me draw with a different color here. Okay, so this section here, this gave us an idea of how many pages. That's just meaningless now. I don't want you to be confused. Let me get rid of that. It was an arrow or something there I drew. Okay, and your target was 25,000. Yeah, 25,000, and you hit 30. Right? You hit 30. You were given 27 weeks, and you what? You did it in 20. No, you were given 30 weeks, right? And you did it in
Yeah.
27.
Did it in 27.
Just go over that. That you had actually done it in 27 weeks. That's the kind of big point. I'm just trying to help you start drawing out what are the big things to report back and look like a star. And to be a star, usually you just are stating what you actually did. It's not like you're trying to reach beyond what you actually did. You're reporting back. I had solid results. You left behind an asset of Excel analysis. Okay, so those are the kinds of things to get in there. And And other than that, let me go over to the right page again. Let me go back to the instructions here. And so that's the Microsoft Word part. You stated it first, but I was going to state it second. It doesn't really matter where. To support your final report, you need to finish 12 contract analysis in Excel. Okay, and be thinking questions. Treat it like a real thing. You can ask me like, "What do you? From here, where do I go?" I want you to get up to a wall where you go. Now I need Professor Gregory's input on this. Take this as far as you go. This is like a real. Actually, this is turning out to be quite a bit like a real situation. Okay. You
Hmm.
need to do that. If you get all of that done, was there anything else we talked about tonight?
Um, No, I don't. I just think it was the Word doc and then
Yeah.
the updated Excel.
If you have questions in the interim, send whatever you have kind of thing and ask me specific questions. Always work up to a wall, like if it's just a matter of going and doing it. We've talked about it, get it done. But then when you run into a legit question and you've run out of primitive information that we've created here and you need some help. If before, so what were we saying, Wednesday night?
Yeah, let's shoot for Wednesday. I'll let you know ahead of time if that's
Okay.
not going to work.
All right. Good. So I suggest not waiting to the last minute. Where is this? To find out that you have problems. I'd rather have you. Where are we? Wednesday. By the end of the weekend. I mean, it could be. I don't know what your schedule is going to be like. I know the kind of job that you have right now, but I would say make sure check in with me. Sunday night won't be good, but check in with me like Control Z. Check in that you've been making progress by Monday night, and just send me an email. Let me know where you got. Is that good? I mean, whoops. I know if you don't do daily work on this, you can kind of go, I'll do it tomorrow, and then it becomes 2 days and 5 days, and all of a sudden, we'll be talking possibly Wednesday night. Okay. I'd rather help you check in. Okay. Just send me an email or something that says how progress is going with questions. Okay.
Okay.
All right. And I'll shoot you these PDFs so you have it. And I think I could send you the file too. I think I'd send you the file. Did I send you the Excel file yet?
Yeah, you sent me the Excel. I had a slight problem on my computer.
Okay.
It wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't letting me edit the doc on Excel. I don't know if it's because I have like an older version of Microsoft Windows, but
Can you send it as a JPC?
I was gonna take that. I did all the work in Google, and I was just gonna convert all the work I did back over to Excel.
I'd be really careful about that. I highly recommend you don't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, the conversion part of it. One thing to do is you could still check in with the. I'll write it down here for with your Windows computer. Check in with Mount St. Mary's IT. If you don't have it and you have a computer that's compatible with it, is get your. You might as well get it if you don't have it already. This gives you the latest version. You can get it free from school, and they'll give you a check. And you just tell them you're working with me on an independent study right now if you don't have it. But whatever computer you have, if it is an old Windows, check to see if it is Win 10. The fastest way I know of how to do it. Hopefully, it's not 8. 8's sort of the kind of a
It's
what do you,
uh it's 2016. I just don't know why it was giving me problems.
well, yeah, your Microsoft Office might be 16, but are you using Windows 10? Um,
Uh,
so if you have 16, you should be okay. And what you
okay.
could do is take a screenshot and send it to me. And if I could get a first read on it, I might say, oh, just do the same thing with IT. Just call them up or send it to them and ask them what's going on if it's beyond me. I might be able to direct you. I might be able to solve it, or I might be able to send you to IT. That's what they're there for. I mean, they sit there all day long. Not that I'm trying to shovel them extra work or anything, but that's what they're there for.
Yeah.
But Windows 10 helps if you have Windows 10. And the way that I know Windows 10 is you can come down in the left-hand corner and there's a little Windows gadget down there that I'm sticking right now. And if you click that, it pops up all these. It gives me all my programs on my computer. I think before that, Windows 7 didn't have that. Windows 8 might have had that, but Windows 8 is sort of the death. What do you call it? The kill zone. Windows 8 was so short supported. Hopefully, you don't have Windows 8. It's like 8.1. I'll use my colors for that. And even that, put one of these. Windows 8.1 is a kill zone, and you might even be able to get an upgrade to Win 10 on your computer. What kind of computer is it?
Just some HP. I don't know the exact model.
Did you use it for school, or is it just something that you've had
Yeah,
around?
I used it for school.
Did you? How old is
Yeah.
it?
A year and a half, 2 years.
That should work. Yeah, 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 that should work. And I gotta believe it's Windows 10. And
Yeah, I don't think
yeah,
it's anything weird with it.
yeah, and you might want to get all the free upgrades you can while you're still connected. Yep, with the college. All right. How we doing? All right.
Yeah, doing good.
Okay, so I'll send you all these things, these sheets that we have in here. I'll send you the. I think I can send. Let me just see here. I can export it to PDF. I just exported it to this. Oh, but I can also send. Let's just see this. Send a copy of this page. See, yeah, this OneNote is kind of wacky. I don't know if I can actually send you the whole file. All right. No, whatever. I'll send you. I think it has to be page by page.
Yeah, worst case scenario, I have the outline, have all the numbers. I can just transfer it over. It'll take longer, but I'd rather be safe than sorry if it
Exactly.
doesn't wind up working.
In my courses, and you'll see in the syllabus, I say do not try to do what you're doing there. In fact, I should put that note in there that don't even try to convert things because you could end up with trouble. The formatting's going to be all gooched up on it and everything else. You know, gooch being a very technical term there, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let me know.
Okay.
Along the way, if you kind of hit a little wall, just send me a note. And say, oh, I'm having a little trouble with this, or if you need any grease to get into the IT people or whatever else, just let me know. All right.
Okay.
Very good. Okay, so this was recorded. I'll even when we jump off here, GoToMeeting says, "Do you want me to convert this to a video?" And I'll say yes, and then give you a link to it. All right.
Sounds good.
Very good, sir. Okay.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
You have a good night now. All right.
You too.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.